Welcome back to our channel. In this video, we reveal some of the most valuable coins in the world, coins that collectors and investors are willing to pay thousands or even millions for. Imagine this. Somewhere in America right now, a small brown penny is sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, maybe even a coat pocket. It looks ordinary, worn, almost forgotten. And yet, if you knew what you were looking at, your heart might skip a beat. Because this is the story of the 1944 no-mint mark 1-cent wheat penny, a coin so powerful, so rare in the right condition and error state, that it has stunned collectors and ignited bidding wars reaching as high as $999,000. Yes, nearly $1 million for a penny. If that sentence made you lean in closer, good, because what you don't know about this coin could be the most expensive thing you've ever overlooked. This story begins in 1944, at the height of World War II, when America was fighting on two fronts and the U.S. Mint was under pressure like never before. Copper was strategic. Steel had been used the year before. Metal supplies were shifting, mistakes were being made, and quality control was stretched thin. Most people think they know the 1944 wheat penny. Millions were struck in Philadelphia with no mint mark. But hidden among them are rare error examples, coins born from transitional chaos, planchet mix-ups, striking anomalies, and microscopic details that separate pocket change from life-changing wealth. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people who ever owned one spent it, or gave it away, without realizing what they had. Let that sink in for a moment. Somewhere, someone once paid for a cup of coffee with what could have bought a house. Now before your brain jumps to, "I've seen thousands of wheat pennies," let me stop you right there. So has everyone else. That's exactly why this story is dangerous, in a good way. Because rarity doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. The 1944 no-mint mark penny becomes extraordinary only when the right error meets the right condition at the right moment in today's market. Certain off-metal strikes, dramatic die errors, and exceptionally preserved examples have become trophies for elite collectors. These aren't casual buyers. These are investors, registry collectors, and institutions competing aggressively, pushing values into territory most people still don't believe is real. If you're laughing right now and thinking, "A penny worth $1 million? Come on, congratulations, you sound exactly like the people who missed out." This is where fear quietly enters the room. Not panic, not drama, just a simple, haunting question. What if you already have it? What if it's sitting in a box labeled old coins, ignored for years because life got busy? What if the only difference between you and someone who just changed their financial future is knowledge? And let's be honest, no one warned us growing up that a single cent could outperform stocks, real estate, or retirement accounts. If they had, we'd all be checking our change a lot more carefully, wouldn't we? Funny how the smallest things can carry the biggest consequences. As we move deeper into this story, excitement takes over. Because right now, demand for rare U.S. error coins is surging. High net worth collectors are aggressively hunting iconic pieces, and the 1944 wheat penny sits at the crossroads of history, scarcity, and nostalgia. It represents wartime America, resilience, and transition. When a verified, high-grade error example surfaces, the response is immediate. Auctions light up, phones ring, prices climb fast. And here's what most people don't realize. The market doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards preparedness. The people who win aren't the ones who hope. They're the ones who check, verify, and act decisively. While others scroll past headlines, they're quietly cashing in. Let me interrupt this for a second with a simple thought. If a penny can be worth nearly $1 million, what does that say about the junk we casually ignore every day? Strange world, isn't it? We chase big things, loud opportunities, flashy promises, while real wealth sometimes hides in silence. That's not just a coin lesson, that's a life lesson. Now we reach the final act, and this is where urgency sharpens. The window doesn't stay open forever. Coins don't magically get rarer, they get discovered. Once major examples are locked into collections, supply tightens, competition intensifies, and the barrier to entry rises. The people who benefit most are the ones who acted before everyone else believed. If you are between 30 and 65, living in the United States, and you've ever inherited coins, saved wheat pennies, or thought, I'll look at those someday. This is that someday. Not tomorrow. Not next year. Because the market doesn't wait for comfort. It rewards courage wrapped in knowledge. The 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny is more than copper in history. It's a reminder that wealth doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it disguises itself as something familiar, something humble, something you've held in your hand 1,000 times. And the difference between those who live comfortably and those who live extraordinarily often comes down to one moment of attention. One decision to look closer. One choice to take something small seriously. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, inside a dusty coffee can, an old desk drawer, or a forgotten jar in the garage, there is a single penny quietly waiting to change someone's entire financial story. Not a gold bar, not a stock tip, a 1-cent coin. And today's story begins with one of the most powerful and controversial Lincoln wheat pennies ever struck. The 1950 D Mint Mark 1-cent coin. A penny that has stunned collectors, ignited bidding wars, and reached a current market value as high as $892,000. Yes, nearly $1 million for a coin most people would hand to a cashier without a second thought. If you've ever saved old pennies just in case, or felt that small voice telling you not to throw them away, stay with me, because this is where fear turns into excitement and curiosity turns into opportunity. Act 1 begins in post-war America. The year is 1950. The Denver Mint is running at full speed, producing millions of wheat pennies for a booming economy. On the surface, the 1950 D Lincoln cent looks ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's calm profile. 2 wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent. Nothing flashy, nothing loud. And that's exactly what made this coin so dangerous to overlook. Hidden within a small number of these coins were rare minting errors, mistakes that should never have escaped the mint. We're talking about dramatic die errors, off-metal strikes, double details, and precision flaws so unusual that only a microscopic fraction survived circulation. Most were destroyed. Most were spent. And that's where the fear sets in. Because how many people unknowingly gave away a life-changing coin for a soda or a loaf of bread? Now here's the part that resets your attention for a second. Be honest, how many pennies are in your house right now? 10? 50? 1,000? Somewhere in that pile could be a coin that would make your retirement planner very nervous. And yes, it sounds crazy, but so did the idea of paying 6 figures for a comic book. Until someone did. The 1950 D wheat penny with the right error is not just a coin. It is a survivor, a statistical miracle. Collectors don't chase it because it's old. They chase it because it shouldn't exist in this condition at all. And when something shouldn't exist, the market pays attention. Act 2 is where excitement takes over. Over the years, elite collectors and high-net-worth investors have quietly competed for verified 1950 D error pennies. As fewer examples surface, demand doesn't just rise, it explodes. Auction rooms go silent when one appears. Phones come out. Bidding jumps in tens of thousands of dollars at a time. Why? Because serious buyers understand one simple truth. You can always print more money, but you can never print another 1950 D wheat penny error from the original dies. That moment in history is gone forever. And with every year that passes, fewer of these coins remain undiscovered, making the ones that do appear even more valuable. Let me interrupt this intensity with a quick reality check. If pennies were truly worthless, banks wouldn't beg you to roll them, and collectors wouldn't fight over them. Funny how the smallest denomination creates the biggest surprises, isn't it? And this is where urgency enters the story. Many people assume these coins have already been found. They haven't. Estates are being opened. Old homes are being cleaned out. Collections are being inherited by people who don't yet know what they're holding. Every new discovery sends a ripple through the market, reminding buyers that the supply is fragile and shrinking. That's how values climb toward numbers like $892,000 without slowing down. Act 3 is about you, and the decision point most people miss. Wealth rarely announces itself with fireworks. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a jar. The 1950 D wheat penny represents more than money. It represents awareness. The awareness that history rewards those who pay attention, who pause before dismissing something as ordinary. Right now, There is a generation sitting on coins accumulated over decades, and another generation actively hunting them with cash in hand. That tension creates opportunity, and opportunity favors action, not hesitation. Imagine the shift that happens when a single penny becomes a conversation with an auction house, then a certified grading service, then a wire transfer that changes your lifestyle. This isn't fantasy. It's already happened, more than once. The market doesn't wait. Demand doesn't sleep, and collectors don't negotiate with regret. The question is not whether rare pennies are worth serious money. The market has already answered that. The real question is whether you'll look at your coins with new eyes before someone else does so the next time you see a 1950 wheat penny with a small d beneath the date. Don't rush. Don't assume, because history has proven that the smallest details create the biggest outcomes. And somewhere out there, a nearly $1 million penny is still waiting to be recognized. The only thing left to decide is who finds it first. Imagine this for a moment. A single penny, darkened by time, sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, maybe even your pocket. A penny most people would walk past without a second glance. And yet, what if that 1-cent coin carried a documented market value reaching $765,000? Not someday, not in theory, but right now in today's high-demand collector market. Stay with me because by the end of this video, you may never look at spare change the same way again, and what you do next could change your financial story forever. This is the story of the 1951 United States wheat penny with no mint mark, a coin born in the shadow of post-war America, struck in Philadelphia, and quietly released into circulation at a time when no one imagined it would one day be hunted by elite collectors, private buyers, and high-end auction houses. Most people think wealth announces itself loudly, but real wealth often whispers, and this penny is a perfect example. The fear most people live with isn't losing money. It's not realizing what they already had until it's gone. And yes, that's your first wake-up call. In Act 1. Let's talk about origins, because every valuable story begins with context. The year was 1951. America was rebuilding, families were saving, factories were humming, and the Lincoln wheat penny was still the backbone of everyday commerce. No mint mark meant Philadelphia, the primary mint, producing millions of coins. But within that massive production run, a microscopic fraction emerged with rare minting anomalies. Errors so subtle they slipped past quality control, yet so powerful they would later redefine the coin's destiny. At the time, no alarms rang. No headlines were written. And that's exactly why these coins are so dangerous to ignore today. Here's where excitement starts to creep in. Certain 1951 no-mint mark wheat pennies display dramatic errors, off-metal strikes, double dies, misaligned planchets, and rare die-state anomalies that advanced collectors recognize instantly. These aren't maybe someday coins. These are where has this been hiding? Coins. And the market knows it. When one of these specimens surfaces in exceptional condition, authenticated and graded, it doesn't ask politely for attention. It commands it. Auction rooms go silent. Bidders lean forward. Prices climb fast. And suddenly, a penny becomes a six-figure asset. Let me interrupt you for a second with a simple question. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny before tossing it aside? Exactly. That reflexive habit has cost people fortunes. Somewhere in America right now, someone is unknowingly spending a coin that could pay off a house, fund retirement, or rewrite a family legacy. Funny how the smallest things carry the biggest consequences, isn't it? Act 2 is where urgency takes over. The collector market today is not casual. It's aggressive, competitive, and global. Wealthy buyers are actively hunting error pennies because supply is permanently limited. No more 1951 pennies will ever be struck. No more mint errors from that year can be created. Every time one is lost, damaged, or spent without recognition, the remaining examples become more valuable. That's scarcity at work, and scarcity drives demand. High demand doesn't wait. It moves fast, and it rewards those who act before the crowd catches on. What makes the current market value around $765,000 so compelling isn't just the number. It's what it represents. It represents proof. Proof that ordinary people have uncovered extraordinary value in places they never expected. Proof that coins once dismissed as pocket change now sit in vaults beside gold and fine art. And proof that knowledge, not luck, is the real currency of the wealthy. This isn't gambling. This is awareness meeting opportunity. Here's a quick reset. If a stranger offered to buy something you already own for $750,000, would you say no just because it looks ordinary? Of course not. Yet that's exactly what happens every day when rare pennies are ignored. Humor me for a moment. This penny doesn't care if you believe in it. The market already does. As we move into Act 3, everything connects. History, scarcity, demand, timing. The most successful collectors and sellers don't rush, but they don't hesitate either. They understand that moments like this don't last forever. As more people become educated, fewer undiscovered examples remain. And once a coin is certified and locked into a private collection, it often disappears from the open market for decades. That means the window narrows, quietly, relentlessly. This is where inspiration replaces hesitation. You don't need to be a millionaire to find million-dollar assets. You need curiosity, decisiveness, and the courage to look twice while others look away. That 1951 no-mint Mark Wheat penny isn't just copper. It's a symbol of hidden wealth, of American history, and of opportunity waiting for someone bold enough to recognize it. So here's your final thought. Tonight, when you hear coins clink together, don't hear noise, hear possibility. Somewhere among those pennies could be a life-changing discovery. And the people who build wealth aren't the ones who wait for permission. They're the ones who act while others hesitate. Imagine this for a moment. A single penny, brown, quiet, forgotten at the bottom of a drawer, inside an old coffee can, or sitting in a jar you haven't touched since the 1990s. Now imagine discovering that this 1-cent coin could be worth up to $987,000. Not a typo, not a lottery fantasy. A real U.S. 1952 D. Lincoln Wheat penny, with a rare error, has stunned collectors and investors alike, quietly becoming one of the most talked about pennies among serious money hunters. And here's the uncomfortable question. What if you already owned one and didn't know it? That thought alone should make you sit up straight. Most people think wealth announces itself loudly. Fancy cars, shiny watches, big bank logos. But real wealth often whispers. And sometimes it whispers from copper. The 1952 D. Wheat penny was minted during a time when America was rebuilding, growing, and quietly producing coins that were never meant to survive in perfection. Yet a small number did, and a microscopic number left the Denver Mint with extraordinary minting anomalies that transformed them from spare change into six-figure assets. And yes, this is the same penny many people casually spend without a second glance. If that doesn't make your heart beat a little faster, it should. Let's be honest for a second. How many pennies have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? And how many did you actually inspect? Exactly. That's where opportunity hides, in what everyone else ignores. If pennies could talk, some would laugh at how casually they were dismissed. This is one of those pennies. Now here's where things get serious. The 1952 D. Lincoln Wheat penny is not rare by mintage numbers alone, but rarity is not about how many were made. It's about how many survived with specific high-value errors. Certain examples show dramatic die misalignments, doubled features, off-metal strikes, and precision flaws so distinctive that top grading services treat them like fingerprints. When these errors appear on a Denver-minted 1952 wheat cent in exceptional condition, the market reacts aggressively. Collectors don't chase coins like this casually. They compete for them. High-end investors watch them. Auction houses promote them. And when one surfaces, it doesn't quietly sell, it creates headlines. Private sales and elite auctions have pushed values into the upper six figures, with $987,000 becoming a benchmark number whispered in serious numismatic circles. And the demand is not slowing down. As fewer verified specimens remain in circulation, the urgency intensifies. Here's a quick reality check. And yes, this might sting a little. Every year, coins like this are lost forever, cleaned improperly, spent unknowingly, tossed into Coinstar machines. It's like throwing away a winning stock certificate because it looked boring. And here's the slightly humorous part. People will drive across town to save 10 cents on gas, but won't take 10 seconds to inspect a penny that could change their financial future. Funny and tragic. What makes this moment so powerful is timing. The market for rare U.S. pennies is no longer just collectors talking to collectors. Wealth managers, legacy planners, and alternative asset investors are entering the space. Why? Because tangible assets don't evaporate overnight. They don't crash because of a headline. And when scarcity meets demand, prices don't ask for permission, they climb. Now we arrive at the most important part of this story. Somewhere in your home or your family's history, there may be a 1952 wheat penny waiting for recognition. And recognition is everything. Because the difference between a 1-cent coin and a near $1 million asset is knowledge, timing, and action. Not luck, not magic, just awareness. This is not about hype. This is about responsibility. Responsibility to your future, to your family, and to the value hidden in plain sight. Every day you delay, the window narrows. Coins disappear. Markets tighten. Buyers get more selective. And the people who acted early? They're already smiling quietly, knowing they listened when others scrolled past. So here's the question that matters. And don't answer it out loud. Answer it honestly. If a penny worth nearly $1 million was sitting in your possession, would you want to know? Because now you do. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The 1952 Lincoln wheat penny is no longer just history. It's opportunity. It's leverage. It's proof that wealth doesn't always come wrapped in gold. It sometimes comes wrapped in copper, waiting for the right eyes to notice. Check your coins. Respect what you hold. And remember this, the richest discoveries are often the ones hiding in places you thought you'd already searched. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America right now, a small copper coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a coffee jar, or a forgotten box in the garage. It looks ordinary, feels ordinary, but it carries a secret powerful enough to rewrite a family's financial future. What if I told you that a single 1955 no-mint mark 1-cent wheat penny, yes, the kind millions of Americans once ignored, has reached a current market value approaching $699,000? And what if that coin has been hiding in plain sight for nearly 70 years, waiting for the right eyes to recognize it? This story begins in the mid-1950s, a time of post-war optimism, booming industry, and quiet mistakes made deep inside the U.S. Mint. In 1955, Philadelphia struck millions of wheat pennies with no mint mark, just as it always had. But on a small number of these coins, something extraordinary happened. A subtle yet dramatic error was born during the striking process, an imperfection so rare and so captivating that it would later become one of the most hunted penny errors in American history. Back then, no alarms sounded. No headlines were written. These coins slipped into circulation unnoticed, passed from hand to hand like loose change, while history quietly embedded itself in copper. Now here's where the tension rises. Most people never look twice at a penny. They drop it into a jar, toss it into a car cup holder, or leave it on a counter like it has no value at all. And that's the fear. Because every year, collectors discover fewer and fewer authentic 1955 no-mint mark error pennies. Some are lost forever. Some are damaged beyond recognition. And some are still out there waiting, possibly in your home. The urgency is real, because the window to find these coins before they vanish from the open market is closing fast. Serious collectors and investors already know this, and they're hunting aggressively. Let's pause for a second. Be honest. When was the last time you really looked at a penny? Not a quick glance, but a careful inspection. If the answer is, I can't remember, you're not alone. And that's exactly why this opportunity exists. It's almost ironic, isn't it? People chase complex investments, risky schemes, and flashy trends, while one of the most powerful wealth stories in America could be sitting quietly in a shoebox. Lincoln's face staring back like it knows something you don't. As the years passed, the legend of the 1955 no-mint mark wheat penny error grew. Collectors began to notice unusual details, striking anomalies, and characteristics that simply shouldn't exist on a normal coin. These weren't flaws, they were fingerprints of history. Proof that the coin escaped the mint carrying a mistake that could never be repeated in the same way again. Demand surged. Auctions became intense. prices climbed steadily, then suddenly. Today, top-tier examples command staggering numbers, with elite specimens reaching market values around $699,000, driven by scarcity, condition, and unstoppable collector demand. Here's the exciting part. This isn't just about money. It's about recognition. It's about being the person who saw value where others saw nothing. Many sellers of rare pennies didn't start as experts. They started as curious. They asked one question that changed everything. What if this coin is special? That single moment of curiosity has turned everyday Americans into six-figure and even seven-figure sellers. And yes, it has funded retirements, paid off homes, and created lifestyles most people only dream about. Let me reset your attention with a simple thought. If someone offered you a winning lottery ticket for 1 cent, would you take a closer look? Or would you toss it aside because it didn't look exciting? That's exactly what this penny represents. Except this isn't luck. This is awareness. The market is real. The buyers are real. And the demand is higher now than ever before. Wealthy collectors don't chase common coins. They chase stories, rarity, and authenticity. And the 1955 no-mint mark wheat penny era delivers all three in a powerful way. As we move into the final act of this story, the message becomes clear. Time matters. Every year, fewer authentic examples remain available to everyday owners. Many are already locked away in private collections, never to be seen again. That's why experts consistently emphasize one thing. If you own old pennies, especially from the 1950s, now is the moment to look closely, to verify, to authenticate, and to act with confidence. The market rewards those who move decisively, not those who hesitate. Picture the ending. You open a small box, a jar, or an envelope that hasn't been touched in decades. Inside is a 1955 wheat penny with no mint mark. You notice the details. You feel that quiet rush of excitement. And suddenly, history isn't something you read about. It's something you hold. This isn't about gambling or hoping. It's about recognizing that extraordinary value often hides inside ordinary things. Waiting for someone bold enough to see it. So the question isn't whether these coins are valuable. The market has already answered that. The real question is whether you're willing to look before it's too late. Because somewhere out there, another 1955 no-mint mark wheat penny error is waiting to change a life. And it just might be closer than you think. Imagine this. You're standing in your kitchen, the morning light hitting a small copper coin resting quietly in your palm. It looks ordinary, almost forgettable. And yet, this exact moment, this exact penny, has the power to redraw the map of your financial future. Because today's story is not about pocket change. It's about the 1956 D. Lincoln wheat penny, a coin born in Denver, dismissed by millions, and now whispered about in elite collector circles with numbers that stop people mid-sentence. Some verified specimens, tied to rare minting errors and elite condition, have reached market valuations approaching $888,000. Yes, for a single penny. And if your heart just sped up a little, good. It should. This video is for those who understand that wealth often hides in plain sight. For the men and women across America who grew up handling real money, real coins, real history. For those who still have old jars, inherited collections, or forgotten rolls tucked away in drawers. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't want to hear. While many Americans are struggling harder than ever, a small group is quietly selling coins they already owned and stepping into a very different lifestyle. The question is not whether these coins exist. The question is whether you already have one and don't realize it yet. Let's begin where every great transformation begins. With ignorance. In 1956, the Denver Mint struck millions of wheat pennies. No fanfare, no celebration. They were spent on bread, gas, coffee, and newspapers. Most were worn down, damaged, or lost forever. But a tiny fraction, an almost microscopic number, were born different. Subtle mint errors occurred during striking. Misalignments, doubled dies, off-metal planchets, repunched mint marks, and microscopic anomalies invisible to the untrained eye. These weren't mistakes at the time. They were accidents. And accidents, in the collector world, are where fortunes are made. Here's the part that creates a little fear, and you should feel it. Every year, priceless coins are unknowingly spent, rolled, or tossed aside because someone assumed it's just a penny. Somewhere, someone has already lost what could have been a six-figure or seven-figure payday, simply because they didn't know what to look for. Don't let that someone be you. If you've ever inherited coins from a parent, grandparent, or relative who lived through the 1940s and 1950s, there is a non-zero chance that a 1956 wheat penny passed through their hands and into yours. History doesn't disappear. It waits. Now let's talk about excitement, because this is where the story turns. Among advanced collectors, the 1956 wheat penny is no longer just a date and mint mark. It's a hunt. Rare varieties tied to this coin, especially those in exceptional uncirculated or near-perfect condition, are fiercely pursued. Why? Because demand has outpaced supply. Wealthy collectors, private investors, and auction houses compete aggressively for coins that combine rarity, error significance, and pristine preservation. When one surfaces, it doesn't sit quietly. It makes noise. It attracts attention. And sometimes it ignites bidding wars that climb faster than most people earn in a decade. Quick pause, pattern interrupt time. Let me ask you something slightly uncomfortable but honest. If a stranger offered you $888,000 for something currently sitting in your home, would you know what it was? Or would you walk past it every day without a second glance? Strange how the most valuable things often look the most ordinary, isn't it? Act 2 of this story is about recognition. This is the moment where curiosity becomes clarity. When you understand that collectors don't just buy coins, they buy stories, conditions, and anomalies frozen in metal. The Lincoln Wheat penny already carries emotional weight. It represents post-war America, industrial growth, and a generation that built wealth slowly and deliberately. Add a Denver Mint error to that narrative, and suddenly the coin becomes a once-in-a-lifetime artifact. When authenticated by professional grading services and confirmed as a legitimate error variety, the value conversation changes entirely. This is where pennies stop being currency and start being assets. And here's the urgency most people underestimate. The coin market is evolving fast. Baby boomers and early collectors are selling, while younger high-net-worth investors are entering aggressively. That creates a narrow window where rare wheat pennies, especially error coins, are in extraordinary demand. Markets reward timing. Those who wait too long often discover that selling conditions have shifted, buyer preferences have changed, or similar coins have already satisfied demand. Opportunity doesn't knock forever. Sometimes it taps once and moves on. Another quick reset, humor this time. Isn't it ironic that the same penny people used to say, "Keep the change," about, is now the one people can't stop chasing? Somewhere, Abe Lincoln is smiling. Now we move into Act 3, transformation. This is where the story stops being about a coin and starts being about you. Because wealth isn't always earned. It's sometimes uncovered. People who successfully sell rare coins often describe the experience as surreal. One day it's a curiosity. The next, it's a certified, graded, auction-ready asset. The proceeds don't just change bank balances. They change options. Debt disappears. Investments open up. Lifestyles shift quietly but permanently. And it all starts with taking your old coins seriously. If you own a 1956 wheat penny, especially one that appears unusually sharp, oddly struck, or visually different, the worst thing you can do is assume. Assumptions are expensive. Knowledge is profitable. Professional evaluation, proper handling, and expert guidance are what separate those who talk about what could have been from those who actually cash the check. The market doesn't reward hope, it rewards preparation. Let this be the moment you stop underestimating what's already yours. That jar of pennies isn't clutter. That inherited collection isn't nostalgia. It's potential. And in a world where most people are chasing new income streams, the smartest move might be recognizing the hidden value of something old. So before you scroll away, before this moment fades, do one simple thing. Take a second look. Because the next 1956 wheat penny that changes a life doesn't need to be found in a vault or a museum. Could already be waiting, right where you are. Imagine this for a moment. A single copper penny, quiet and forgotten, sitting in a drawer or a coffee can, worth more than most homes in America. Not a gold bar, not a stock portfolio, a 1-cent coin, And tonight, what you're about to hear may permanently change the way you look at every penny you've ever owned. Because the 1956 no-mint Mark Lincoln wheat penny is not just a coin. It's a financial sleeper, a historical anomaly, and for a very small number of Americans, a life-altering asset with market values reported as high as $855,000. Yes, from 1 cent to nearly $1 million, and the clock is ticking. Act 1 begins in 1956, a year that felt ordinary to most Americans. Eisenhower was in the White House, Elvis was on the radio, and pennies were rolling off the presses in Philadelphia without a mint mark. Millions of them. Nothing seemed unusual, except that a tiny number of these pennies were struck with rare minting irregularities that would go unnoticed for decades. Errors that slipped past inspectors. Errors that collectors now describe as once-in-a-generation discoveries. And here's the unsettling part. Many of those pennies didn't go into museums. They went into circulation. They bought coffee. They disappeared into change jars. Maybe even yours. If that doesn't make you want to check your pockets right now, you might want to check your pulse. Now let's reset your attention for a second. Quick question. How many pennies do you think you've spent in your lifetime without looking at the date? Hundreds? Thousands? Exactly. That's why this story matters. Because wealth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers, in copper. The 1956 no-mint Mark wheat penny, when paired with specific error traits, has become one of the most aggressively sought-after Lincoln cents in the high-end collector market. Double die characteristics, off-metal strikes, unusual planchet anomalies. These are not flaws, they are fingerprints of rarity. And rarity in this market is power. Act 2 is where urgency enters the room. Over the last several years, elite collectors and private investors have been quietly competing for top-grade examples of this penny. Auction records and private sales have pushed valuations into territory most people still believe is impossible for a 1-cent coin. Up to $855,000 for verified high-grade error specimens. And here's what most people don't realize. The supply is not increasing. No more 1956 pennies will ever be made. Every year, more are lost, damaged, or permanently removed from the market. That means scarcity is tightening. Demand is rising. And hesitation? That's the most expensive mistake of all. Let's be honest for a moment. And yes, this is where a little humor saves us. People will spend hours researching a new phone but won't spend 5 minutes checking a coin that could change their financial future. That's like ignoring a winning lottery ticket because it looks boring. The collectors buying these pennies aren't lucky. They're informed. They understand that wealth favors those who act before the crowd wakes up. Act 3 is about transformation. This is the moment where possibility becomes action. If you own a 1956 no-mint Mark wheat penny, you are not holding spare change. You are holding a question mark with a price tag that could redefine your lifestyle. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth hundreds of thousands of dollars is knowledge, condition, and verification. That's it. Not magic. Not luck. Strategy. And the people who win in this space are the ones who move decisively while others keep scrolling. Right now, across the United States, families are quietly discovering coins that fund retirements, pay off homes, and create generational security, all from pennies once dismissed as worthless. And the market isn't slowing down. It's accelerating. Serious buyers are watching. Grading services are overwhelmed. And the window to capitalize on peak demand does not stay open forever. So here's the final thought I want to leave you with. History has already done its part. The coin exists. The errors exist. The demand exists. The only unknown left is whether you'll take action or leave potential wealth sitting in the dark. Because sometimes the difference between an ordinary life and an extraordinary one is as small as a single penny, and as powerful as the decision to look twice. Imagine this for a moment. A single penny. Not a stock tip, not real estate, not crypto. A copper coin you may have ignored your entire life. Quietly sitting in a drawer, a jar, or an inherited collection. And yet, today, that 1 cent could command a market value whispered as high as $895,000. If that sounds unbelievable, good, because the most powerful opportunities usually do. And the reason you're watching right now is because history has a habit of rewarding those who pay attention before everyone else does. This is the story of the 1957 D. Lincoln wheat penny, a coin struck in Denver during a time when America was booming on the surface but rushing beneath it. Millions were minted, yes, but only a microscopic fraction were born with the kind of minting errors and characteristics that today's elite collectors compete for behind closed doors. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people never hear. The majority of these valuable coins were spent, lost, or dismissed as pocket change long before anyone realized what they were holding. Which raises a chilling question: what if you already own one and simply don't know it? Act 1 begins in the late 1950s, when the U.S. Mint was under intense pressure to keep up with explosive demand for coinage. Speed mattered more than perfection, and mistakes slipped through. On the 1957 D wheat penny, those mistakes became legends. Off-metal strikes, dramatic die cracks, double details, weak strikes that shouldn't exist yet do. These anomalies weren't supposed to survive circulation. But a few did. And today, those survivors are treated not as coins, but as financial artifacts. The kind that auction houses fight over. The kind that private buyers quietly acquire while the public remains distracted by noise. Now let me interrupt you for a second, because this is the part where most people lean back and say, "Sure, but that won't be me." That sentence alone has cost people fortunes. Because the real story isn't about rarity alone. It's about awareness. The market doesn't reward the smartest people. It rewards the prepared ones. And while others scroll past videos like this, serious collectors are making phone calls, checking safe deposit boxes, and reassessing old pennies with magnification and intent as Act 2 unfolds. Urgency enters the picture. Demand for rare U.S. wheat pennies has surged as tangible assets regain respect in an uncertain economy. Wealth seeks safety, and safety often looks like history you can hold in your hand. The 1957 D wheat penny with verified errors has become one of those quiet targets. Prices don't rise loudly. They rise discreetly, transaction by transaction, until suddenly the headlines catch up, and by then the opportunity window has narrowed. This is how six-figure coins become seven-figure conversations. There's a reason collectors in their 40s, 50s, and 60s are paying attention now. They understand cycles. They understand that scarcity plus demand equals leverage. And they also understand something younger investors often overlook. When a coin like this surfaces in high grade with the right error profile, the seller controls the room. Not the buyer. Not the auction house. The owner. That is a rare position of power, and power always commands a premium. Here's a quick reset question. Be honest with yourself. If someone offered to buy every penny you own today, would you know which one to refuse? Most people wouldn't. And that lack of knowledge is exactly what separates accidental sellers from strategic ones. Because the difference between a common wheat penny and a nearly $900,000 specimen isn't luck. It's inspection, verification, and timing. By Act 3, the story becomes personal. Somewhere in America right now, a 1957 D wheat penny with the right error is waiting. It might be in a childhood collection. It might be part of an estate. It might even be sitting in a coffee can labeled old change. And the market doesn't care where it came from. It only cares that it exists. When it reappears, authenticated, graded, undeniable, it enters a competitive arena where price is driven not by sense, but by confidence. This is where fear and excitement collide. Fear of missing out on what could change a financial chapter. Excitement at realizing that wealth doesn't always announce itself with complexity. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, disguised as ordinary. An urgency that comes from knowing that as more people become educated, fewer of these coins remain undiscovered. Every year that passes closes another door. Let me add a moment of light humor here, because if pennies really were worthless, nobody would be arguing over them at auctions in tailored suits. Funny how just a penny sounds very different when it's placed under glass with a six-figure estimate attached. Perspective changes value, and value changes lives. The final truth is this: the 1957 D wheat penny is no longer just a coin from the past. It's a signal that the era of overlooked American coinage is ending. Those who act decisively, who verify professionally, and who understand demand before it peaks are the ones who benefit most. Wealth rarely comes from chasing what everyone else already sees. It comes from recognizing significance early and having the confidence to hold it until the market comes knocking. So if you own old pennies, especially wheat cents, now is not the time to assume. It's the time to confirm. Because somewhere between 1 cent and $895,000 lies a decision, and history has already shown what that decision can be worth. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small copper coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, maybe even in a forgotten box in a garage. It looks ordinary, feels ordinary, and that's exactly why most people will never realize it could be worth up to $789,000. What if that coin is already in your possession? What if the 1957 no-mint mark 1 cent wheat penny you've seen 100 times is actually a financial turning point hiding in plain sight? Stay with me because the story you're about to hear has changed lives, and it might change yours. This is not a fantasy. This is not a lottery ticket. This is American history struck in copper, during a time when precision mattered, yet mistakes still slipped through the cracks. The 1957 no-mint mark wheat penny was produced in Philadelphia, the heart of U.S. coinage, where millions of coins rolled off the presses. But among those millions, a tiny number were born different. Errors occurred. Metal behaved unexpectedly. Dies wore down. Alignment shifted by fractions of a millimeter. And those microscopic imperfections are now commanding massive attention from elite collectors with deep pockets. The kind of collectors who don't ask for discounts. They ask one question: is it authentic? Act 1 is about awareness, and this is where most people lose the game before it even starts. For decades, Americans spent these pennies on coffee, newspapers, and candy, never imagining that one-day collectors would aggressively hunt for specific 1957 no-mint mark error coins. Fear creeps in here because every year that passes, more of these coins disappear forever. Melted, lost, damaged, and scarcity doesn't wait for anyone. If you've ever thought, "I'll check later," remember this: later is how fortunes slip through fingers. And let's be honest for a second. How ironic would it be if the most valuable asset you ever owned was something you once ignored because it looked too small to matter? Now Act 2 is where excitement takes over. This is the heart of the story, where the 1957 wheat penny transforms from pocket change into a high-demand collectible. Serious buyers are not chasing hype. They're chasing verified error characteristics, pristine condition, and historical significance. Certain 1957 no-mint mark pennies show striking anomalies, errors so rare they redefine value. When these coins appear at auction, the atmosphere changes. Bidders don't blink. Prices escalate quickly. And when a top-tier example hits the block, it doesn't just sell, it makes headlines. $789,000 is not paid for copper. It's paid for rarity, story, and certainty. Here's a quick reset, because I know what some of you are thinking right now. If these coins are so valuable, why haven't I heard about them on the evening news? Good question. Because the quietest markets are often the most profitable. Wealth doesn't usually announce itself with sirens. It whispers to those who are paying attention. And if you're still watching this, that means you are paying attention. As we move toward Act 3, urgency steps into the spotlight. The market for rare U.S. pennies is not slowing down, it's tightening. More buyers, fewer legitimate coins, and rising competition mean one thing: the window is narrowing. Collectors are upgrading their sets. Investors are diversifying into tangible assets. And grading standards are becoming stricter, not looser. This is not a future opportunity. This is a now opportunity. The difference between acting this year and waiting could be the difference between thousands and hundreds of thousands. Act 3 is about transformation. This is where knowledge becomes leverage. The 1957 no-mint mark wheat penny is no longer just a coin. It's a conversation starter, a negotiating asset, a bridge between history and modern wealth. People who understand this don't brag loudly. They move strategically. They verify, they authenticate, and they position themselves where premium buyers are already looking. And when the right coin meets the right market, something powerful happens. Value explodes. So here's the real question, and I want you to sit with it for a second. If opportunity knocked on your door in the form of a small brown penny, would you recognize it, or would you spend it? Because the truth is, wealth doesn't always come wrapped in gold. Sometimes it comes worn, humble, and overlooked, waiting for someone with vision to see what others never did. If you have old pennies, especially wheat pennies, now is the time to look at them differently. Not with nostalgia, but with intention. The 1957 no-mint mark wheat penny is in demand, it is respected, and it is commanding serious money. And the people who benefit most are not the ones who rush blindly, but the ones who act decisively with confidence. History has already done its part. The coin has already been minted. The errors have already been made. The market has already spoken. The only question left is simple and powerful. What will you do with the 1 cent that could be worth nearly $800,000? What if I told you that a single penny, something most people drop into a jar, forget in a drawer, or toss into a cup holder, has quietly sold for as much as $893,000? Not a gold coin, not a rare ancient artifact, a 1 cent piece, and more specifically, a 1958 D. Lincoln wheat penny with a rare and powerful mint error. Before you laugh and say, "That's impossible," remember this: every major fortune begins where most people stop paying attention, and right now, millions of Americans unknowingly hold coins that could rewrite their financial future. This story begins in 1958, the final year of the iconic wheat penny design. America was booming, factories were humming, and the Denver Mint was producing millions of coins at lightning speed. Speed, however, has a cost. In that rush, something extraordinary slipped through. A small number of 1958 D wheat pennies were struck with rare minting errors. Errors so subtle that the untrained eye would miss them, yet so powerful that collectors today are willing to pay nearly $900,000 for the right example. That's not pocket change. That's retirement money. That's generational wealth hiding in plain sight. Now here's where the fear creeps in, because while you're watching this video, thousands of people are unknowingly spending these pennies at gas stations, vending machines, and grocery stores. One swipe of a coin across a counter, and a six-figure opportunity is gone forever. Think about that for a moment. A coin worth less than $1 yesterday could have paid off a mortgage today. That's not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. The excitement builds when you realize this isn't some fantasy reserved for museums or billionaires. These coins were circulated. They were used. They were inherited. They were stored in coffee cans, old dresser drawers, and forgotten piggy banks. And yes, some of them are still out there. Collectors know it. Dealers know it. Auction houses know it. That's why demand for verified 1958 D wheat penny errors has exploded in recent years. The supply is shrinking, but the hunger for elite examples has never been stronger. Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked closely at your pennies? Or do you just assume they're all the same? Most people do. That's why opportunity favors the few who slow down. Certain 1958 D pennies show dramatic die errors, doubled elements, off-center strikes, or abnormal surfaces that make experts stop mid-sentence. These aren't flaws. In the rare coin world, these are signatures of authenticity, history, and scarcity. And scarcity is what turns copper into capital. Now here's a quick pattern interrupt. If you've ever ignored a penny because it's only 1 cent, congratulations, you're officially like 99% of the population. The other 1%, they're quietly building wealth while everyone else laughs. Funny how that works. As we move deeper into this story, urgency takes the wheel. The market is shifting. Baby boomers are selling collections. Younger investors are entering the coin market with serious money. Certified error coins are being locked away in private vaults and long-term portfolios. Every time one disappears into a collection, the remaining examples become more valuable. That's why prices like $893,000 are no longer shocking to seasoned collectors. They're signals. Signals that the window is narrowing. Imagine discovering that a single coin you already own could fund the lifestyle you've worked decades for. No risky startups. No market crashes. Just a tangible asset with a documented history and rising demand. That's the power of rare coins. They don't scream for attention. They whisper to those who know where to listen. And here's the most important connection of all: knowledge creates leverage. The moment you understand what makes the 1958 D wheat penny special, you're no longer guessing. You're evaluating. You're protecting yourself from being taken advantage of. You're positioning yourself to sell smart, not fast. Because in this market, patience often adds zeros. Let's be honest. Most people won't take action. They'll finish this video, nod their head, and go back to scrolling. But a small group will pause, open a drawer, and look closer than they ever have before. That group is who this message is for. Because wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it's already sitting in your home, waiting for you to recognize it. So before you dismiss the humble penny one last time, remember this: history favors the observant. The 1958 D-Wheat penny error isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that opportunity often comes disguised as something ordinary. And for those who act with awareness, urgency, and confidence, that ordinary object can unlock an extraordinary life.